I'm going to clip the corner. I'm going to within about an 1/8 or less, 1/16 of an inch in the corner. So I've cut that corner off so it's not bulky in the corner. I know one of these days I'm going to get caught out. So I now need to turn it. And I have a trusty paintbrush. You could get a chopstick. But I happen to have a paintbrush in my armoury here. And just push it down and through. I know it's going to stick, but hey. There are easier ways of doing this, I'm sure. I haven't quite worked it out yet, but... And voila. That's the end of the... So I put the paintbrush in and just poke out the ends. Make sure they're nice, and if you can see, they're nice and square at the end. I'm just going to cut that corner off. Won't need those corners. And I'm going to sometimes I use that, and sometimes I use my fingers. This is wide enough to just about use your fingers to do it. But if it's a bit too narrow, just use a chopstick. And I use this, again, it's the paintbrush, just to point out the corners. Okay. Right, I've got this the right way round now. There's a few creases in it. I think this way gives you a better crease at the bottom, because if you've got a seam in there, you're constantly trying to pull it out to get a neat edge. So I'm just going to give it the iron of its life. It's cotton, so it'll take a good heat. I've got it on a cotton to linen, and it's giving a really crisp finish. Let me just show you that end. So that's got a nice crisp bottom to the headband. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to do the other side now, or the other end of the tie. Let's just straighten that out. And give that a... press it to within an inch of its life. So again, I've made sure the seams are out there and there's no seam at the bottom, so I'm going to get that really good crisp edge. So if you have a look, there's a razor sharp edge at the bottom there. I'm going to assemble the hat or top piece now on to the front of the headpiece. And I can see there's still the line in the material here where I ironed it to the centre of the fabric. So I know that's the centre of my fabric there. I just need to work out where the centre of my fabric is for the head. So if I fold it in half, just give it a little finger press there with my finger and thumb. Cotton is great for this because it'll hold a press, where polyester doesn't hold a crease that well. So I've got a nice crease here. I'm just going to put the pin in. That's another bent pin. Huh. The number of times I must have sewn pins in. Unbelievable. So I'm just going to line that up with the centre there and just put the pin in. Now, this is pin heavy. Is literally ease it round. I'm literally easing the material round to fit, because you're trying to fit what is effectively a round object onto a semi-round piece of fabric. If you feel uncomfortable about going straight to the machine, then tack it, please tack it. But I feel it's like one step too far for my poor little soul here, that I'm wanting to get it done. But if I tack it, that's just going to take another half hour out of my life. That's where we finished sewing there, so I'm going to start sewing the band here, so it kind of is a bit of an overlap. So if you can see, and the last pin in. As you can see, it's pin heavy round that top curve, just so that I know I've got everything in place. There looks like there's going to be some rooks round there, you know, get a bit rucked up, but when you stitch it and take the pins out, those rucks hopefully will go. Right, we've got it pinned. I'm back at the sewing machine. Now I'm going to do this relatively slowly, and you might need to come more over my shoulder to see exactly what I'm doing. I'm just giving it that's a 1/4 inch foot. I'm going slightly over, so I've got a bit more space. So it's probably 3/8-ish. But I sew with a 1/4 inch foot because I'm a quilter. So I'm going to go from about here, and I'm going to secure it. If my machine will let me. I'm going to secure it. And then I'm just going to gradually sew round. And this bit's the easy bit. It's when you get to the crown at the front, it gets a bit trickier. So I'm just taking those pins out as I go round and sewing relatively slowly, and just adjusting the hat front and that just as I go round to make sure there's no puckering. And at this point I'll pull that round a bit and just take it easy. So and just manipulate it round as I go round. So I'm making it go round that curve and just leaving a good 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch as I go round. Again, this is something you might speed up in the edit, I'm not entirely sure. So again, I've got halfway round. I'm just going to pull that bit underneath. I'm just going to straighten it out just to stop puckering. And just take it round that curve nice and gently. And hopefully I will not have any puckers. Again, don't rush this. It's just something you do it nice and slowly, and it'll even itself out as you go round, she said, hopefully. We're on the home straight. So it's nice and flat now, so you can see by the number of pins I'm pulling out that are bent how many I have sewn over in the past. How my poor machine suffers. Right, I'm just going to secure that. I'm going to change my foot. I've got a straight sewing stitch foot here, and I use that a lot for just straight stitching because it keeps it better, more secure and straighter. Oops. And what I'm going to use now is a foot that I can do a zigzag on. So I've got this foot here, and it allows me to do a zigzag. So I just need to change my foot position, which I've done, and I'm going to sew a zigzag all the way around this edge here. I'm going to sew a zigzag just to secure it all and make sure it doesn't fray, and it'll give it a longer shelf life. So that's the last step, is just about here, and I'm going to start, if my machine will let me, I'm going to start. I want it a bit narrower than that, but I also want to go back to secure the stitch. I want it about there, and it doesn't matter if it goes over the edge of the fabric or not. What you're doing is just securing. I'll show you in a minute what I mean. I'm just securing the edges so it doesn't fray. And let's remove. So you'll notice that sometimes it's right by the edge and sometimes it's not. It'll just help to keep that from fraying down to the sewing edge. So this could be washed hundreds of times and it won't fray. So it's right by the edge there. It'll keep everything in check. So that's the idea of doing that. If you've got an overlocker, you could overlock the edge as well, rather than just zigzag. I do have an overlocker, but it's just time. So let's turn it out properly on the desk. Right, here we are, back at the desk. I've got a few odd bits of... I'm just going to scalp it. And let's turn it the right way and see if I've got the flamingos the right way. Yay! The flamingos are the right way up. So let's make sure we've got the hood, got the hat there. I'm just going to finger pull those out, so I'm not going to iron it again. This is as ironed as it'll ever get, from me anyway. And I'm just pulling the sewn hems out so they're nice and even. And the only thing with cotton is it does hold creases, so that's the only downside of cotton, but it manipulates so much better than polycotton. There we are, one with tails.